these countries important. We are reaching a turning point in human history. Humanity's opportunities are greater than ever, but the existential risks facing it are also greater than ever. In 1945, was founded by Albert Einstein and Robert Oppenheimer, and university scientists who opened the new atomic era. The so-called Security Board, in consultation with its board of sponsors, among them were 9 Nobel laureates, they opened the clock named Doomsday Clock. And Doomsday Clock in 2024, its duty to show the risks for human civilization. For the first time in history, was moved from 90 seconds to 89 seconds to midnight. The closest has ever been to catastrophe, global catastrophe. Among the main threats, nuclear risk, climate change, biological stress, disruptive technologies. Among them, AI are named among the main risks. The dangers they listed are greatly aggravated by spread of misinformation, disinformation, and that degrade the communication ecosystem and increasingly below the line between truth and falsehood. The question of who can save the world and how, in which way, preoccupies hundreds of millions of people today. Strategic communication, as one of the most important tools of global governance, can both significantly enhance human development and dangerously exacerbate its greatest existential risks. We are not here only to state problems. They're evident for the vast majority of people all over the globe, for specialists and not only specialists. Our task, by joint efforts, to search for ways to overcome these global problems through strategic communication. Undoubtedly, the discussion ahead will reveal both common ground and differences in understanding the essence, possibilities, and risks of strategic communication. However, within the framework of a fruitful discussion, I hope this will not prevent us from offering specific recommendations for improving the effectiveness of BRICS strategic communication. Why BRICS strategic communication? While speaking about BRICS, the term strategic communication was used on state level in the United States, Great Britain, and some other Western countries. It was later dropped from the official lexicon of the US Department of Defense and then the State Department. The US has not fared well in many areas of its domestic and foreign policies. Strategic communication, as a synchronization of public deeds, words, and images, has entered a period of serious crisis in this country. Instead of improving the quality of public policy in the interests of its own nation and other countries, the United States has chosen the path of propagandistic moralizing, sanctions, and pressure. Meanwhile, the rise of BRICS, it's more than doubling of its share of global GDP for the last 20 years. The rapid narrowing of the scientific and technological gap with Western countries and its balanced international policy that respects the rights and unique development choices of nations are making this association increasingly influential on the international stage. Countries on the rise where words match actions have better conditions for developing strategic communications than those in decline. Where high growth rates have been absent for decades, it's difficult to convince of a better future with fine words. On the other hand, rapid development generates great hopes of BRICS countries. However, we in the BRICS countries should not become dizzy with success. We are well aware that no matter how great our achievements, we face many serious, pressing problems that require solutions. This is where effective strategic communication, both within individual BRICS countries and across the entire association, can help synchronizing social-oriented, innovative actions with corresponding words and images. The rapidly growing BRICS doesn't need confrontation with the outside world. The lack of peace and instability pose dangerous risks to its future development. Therefore, BRICS and its individual members need a strategic communication system that will help resolve global problems peacefully, while also soberly addressing the threats and contradictions that exist globally and preparing for various international development scenarios. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Russian Science Foundation for its support of the research projects BRICS Strategic Communication Global Governance, which made it possible for 9 researchers of our project team to present their initial research results at this conference. I would especially like to thank the organizing committee for their extensive work in organizing this event, including Professor Victoria Lysenko, chair of the organizing committee and chief researcher at the Institute of Philosophy of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and his deputy, Dr. Oleg Kocherov, researcher at the Institute of Philosophy, and the leadership of the Institute of Philosophy of the Russian Academy of Sciences, who provided this venue for our event. I would now finish my introductory work, and I suppose our conference will have a success. Now, I would like to give a word to Victoria Lysenko, her opening remarks. Unfortunately, due to illness, she is unable to participate in this conference in person. We'll listen to her video recording. So, Oleg, please help us.
I am delighted to welcome you to our conference. You know, when I first saw the program and the number of participating countries, I thought, this is what real strategic communication looks like in action. We have managed to bring together researchers from literally every continent to discuss how BRICS countries communicate with each other and with the world, and how this communication can give rise to concrete political steps. Humanity is going through a period of fundamental transformation, where the rapid development of technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is radically changing not only the ways we communicate, but the very architecture of international relations. BRICS is changing too. The BRICS Plus format is no longer the original group of 5 countries. It is a growing community representing a huge portion of humanity. The question is, how can all these different countries, with their different traditions and experiences, learn to coordinate their approaches to bring meaningful change to the world? Let us look what we will be discussing today. The first session focuses on artificial intelligence and technology. We will discuss, on one hand, how technologies can help countries better understand each other, how they facilitate strategic communication and global governance. On the other hand, what risks they carry and how to counter their malicious use. We'll talk about digital diplomacy, AI ethics, and how global South countries are building their information spaces. These are all very relevant and pressing issues. The second session examines BRICS countries' approaches to communication and potential areas for cooperation. You know, this is both the main challenge and the beauty of BRICS. We are all very different. China's approach to global governance differs from India's. The African philosophy of Ubuntu offers an entirely different perspective on cooperation. And somehow, all of this needs to be brought together to find common ground and common space for cooperation without erasing differences. Finally, in the third session, we'll discuss BRICS' role in global politics and global governance. The world right now is, to put it mildly, not the most peaceful place. The question is whether BRICS can be the force that helps stabilize the situation, offering an alternative to what isn't working. We'll discuss peacekeeping, financial mechanisms like the new development bank, culture's role in bridging civilizational divides, and other crucial issues. The conference has brought together people from completely different fields of study. We have political scientists, artificial intelligence specialists, economists, cultural studies experts, and practicing diplomats. Usually, we all sit in our professional bubbles, but here we have the opportunity to hear each other and perhaps to see problems from entirely new angles. And I want to emphasize something particularly important to us. We, the staff of the Eastern Philosophies Department at the Institute of Philosophy of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the UNESCO Chair Philosophy in the Dialogue of Cultures, we are not just organizers of this event, we are deeply invested in its very essence. The interdisciplinary and intercultural nature of this conference isn't just an organizational format for us. It resonates profoundly with our academic work and our fundamental values. We are convinced, and I cannot stress this enough, that effective dialogue between cultures and civilizations, including the format of strategic communication, is impossible without identifying both the common and the unique in the worldview foundations of cultures. These foundations, in turn, are most fully and vividly revealed in philosophical perspectives. Intercultural philosophy, which we have been actively developing for many years, is, in our view, the cornerstone, the very foundation of any inclusive, equitable dialogue, without which effective strategic communication simply cannot take place. This is why it is so gratifying to see that philosophical topics are woven throughout so many presentations today. Our task today is not just to have engaging discussions, though I hope we'll have that too, but to try to identify real pathways for developing BRICS strategic communication. Yes, the results will go into monographies and journals. That's important for academic science, but I hope these discussions will bear fruit in practical terms. After all, strategic communication comes down to a simple thing: the ability to hear and listen to each other. I wish everyone interesting presentation, bright insights, and valuable connections. Let's begin. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Lysenko, for this presentation. It's a pity that you are not physically here, but we have to continue. And the second and we now going to open the plenary session. The plenary session with 5 presentations for 15 minutes. Some presentations will be done physically, some by videotaping we have, and one I should read because the speaker is not here, I suppose. Yes, like Professor, and he starts, Professor Guihong Zhang, Director, Center for Study of the United Nations and the International Organizations, Institute of International Studies, Fudan University, and his topic, BRICS Strategic Communication, Global Governance, Chinese Perspectives. Professor Zhang is a member of Executive Board of United Nations Association of China and a distinguished professor of University for Peace. He has conducted some key research projects, such as China participation in United Nations peacekeeping operations, China's diplomacy of international organizations, and theoretical study of global development initiative granted by China Social Science Researchers Foundation and Ministry of Education. So it's a pity we can't here Professor John, but it's a pleasure for me, by his request, to read his text in case of inability to be in direct contact with us during the conference. So now I'm reading the text sent by Professor John to me. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Zhang Kuhong from Fudan University in Shanghai. It's a great pleasure to join you all online today. Though we have a 5-hour time difference, it's currently 3 p.m. here. I'm truly honored to be part of the significant event. First, please allow me to extend my warmest congratulations to the successful opening of this conference. I'm deeply privileged to have the opportunity to speak first in this plenary session, and I'm pleased to share some perspectives with you. Today, I will set out to address these fundamental questions: what, why, and how. First, what do we mean by strategic communication? Second, why is it crucial for the BRICS countries to engage in strategic communication on global governance? And third, how can the BRICS nations effectively implement this strategic communication regarding global governance? Let me begin with the first question. What is strategic communication? Strategic communication differs from diplomatic consultations. It doesn't deal with functional matters in security, economy, or culture. Instead, it addressing overarching strategic and forward-looking major issues. Its aim is to build political consensus, enhance strategic trust, facilitate strategic cooperation, and manage major differences. Strategic communication primarily operates on two levels. First, it occurs between the top leaders, facilitated through state visits, phone calls, and meetings on different occasions. Second, it takes place among senior diplomatic and security officials through both regular strategic dialogues and temporary arrangements. In addition to official strategic dialogues, there are also track 2 on non-governmental dialogues, primarily hosted by universities and think tanks, as well as semi-official track 1.5 dialogues. China conducted strategic dialogue with other major powers approximately 2 decades ago. For example, the China-US strategic dialogue was launched in 2005 and has continued since, although with some evolutions over time. In the same year, China and Russia initiated their strategic security consultations, which will see their 20th round this year. A new China-Russian dialogue on strategic stability began in 2024. Because of this time restraint, I will not introduce China's strategic dialogue with European Union, UK, France, India, Germany, Japan, and Republic of Korea. This brings us to the second question. Why is it imperative for the BRICS nations to engage in strategic communication on global governance? Strategic communication on global governance among BRICS countries is distinct from typical bilateral strategic communication. First, it occurs within the framework of international organization, not between two major powers. While the BRICS membership includes global and regional powers, it also comprises middle and smaller states. Second, it is specifically focused on global governance. Third, this form of multilateral strategic communication is arguably more complex and challenging, owing to the more diverse interests of the member states. For the BRICS countries, strategic communication on global governance is not only crucial, but also increasingly essential in today's world. First, the reform of global governance is a major issue for the international community. The current system, largely established and led by Western nations, is undergoing significant transformation due to its shortcomings in presentation on world arena, fairness, inclusiveness, and effectiveness. Therefore, it is imperative for BRICS as a group of key development nations to coordinate strategically on this transformation. Secondly, a few major powers, primarily the United States, are pursuing a nation-first approach and engaging in unilateralism. In response, the BRICS countries, acting from the collective interests of the development world, must engage in strategic communication and how to safeguard multilateralism, uphold the international system with the United Nations at its core, and preserve the international order based on international law. Third, BRICS has evolved from an organization of emerging markets into the most significant and influential international platform representing the global south. This carries not only economic but profound political weight, making strategic cooperation about its members not just logical but essential. We have already seen important foundations laid for this cooperation. For instance, in March 2021, the foreign ministers of China and Russia issued a joint statement on issues concerning global governance. More recently, in July 2025, BRICS leaders issued a statement on AI and global governance. This was followed by China's Global Governance Initiative proposed by China's top leader in September 2025. Building upon the foundation of statements and initiatives, it is crucial for BRICS to further strengthen its strategic communication on global governance. Let us now turn to the third and practical question. How can the BRICS countries conduct strategic communication on global governance? The priority must be to identify key areas for BRICS strategic communication and cooperation, centering on core global governance agendas, where tensions are highest and the demand for reform is most pressing. First, in terms of global economic governance and financial system reform, the core strategic communication is to strive for institutional power. This includes, but is not limited to, International Monetary Fund and World Bank quota and voting rights reforms. The international monetary system is overall dependent on a single sovereign currency and development financing gap. Second, in terms of global climate and energy governance, the key to strategic communication is to defend the right to development and just transition. This includes, but is not limited to, climate finance commitments have not been fulfilled. One size fits all. Pressure to reduce emissions and balance between energy security and transition. Third, in terms of digital governance and artificial intelligence rules, strategic communication focuses on shaping the future order. This includes, but is not limited to, the digital divide, data sovereignty and cross-border flows, and ethics and rules. Fourth, in terms of global public health governance, the goal of strategic communication is to build a resilient system. This includes, but is not limited to, a high degree of imbalance in distribution of global public goods, World Health Organization reform, and localized production capacity. In conclusion, strategic communication on global governance among the BRICS countries is of profound significance, both for the future development of BRICS itself and for the process and effectiveness of global governance reform. The Pact for the Future adopted by the 2022 UN Summit for the Future, along with China's Global Governance Initiative, provide a foundation basis for our research project. Thank you all. I finished the speech by Professor Zhang. So, as I want to remind you, all questions will be afterwards. The 5 speakers will present their speeches. Now I want to give a floor to Professor Greg Simons, Professor of Journalism, Department of Journalism and Media, the Daffodil International University, Dhaka. BRICS, his topic is Strategic Communication, BRICS Strategic Communication, Understanding the Offensive and Defense's Role in the Fifth Dimension of Strategy. Professor Simons is author and editor of numerous referred articles, quotations, and books with over 18 books, 38 book chapters, and more than 129 articles. He has given nearly 400 presentations around the world and approximately 400 media interviews. For the last years, he often gave comments to RT, Sputnik, and other Russian, Iranian, and Turkish media. I fully understand Professor Greg Simons, my good friend of mine, Greg. He is very busy, and because of his flight, he can't present this talk by himself. So we can listen the tape with his speech.
So my title of my presentation is BRICS Strategic Communication, Understanding the Offensive and Defensive Roles of the Fifth Dimension of Strategy. So when looking at a topic like this, there is a need to understand the role of geopolitics and also those other factors that are guiding what actors do and what actors perceive. So if we look at the current state of geopolitical play in terms of the global geopolitical transformation that is not only taking place but is increasingly accelerating, you have the global north, the so-called Western-centric US unipolar order, which is in a state of accelerating decline, and there is the global south, that is the non-Western-centric multipolar order, which is growing in terms of its power and influence. Now, when a power understands it is in decline, it can do a number of things with respect to this. The first one is that it can accept the decline. So in this way, it manages its own decline in an attempt to try and make that decline more smooth and predictable. Or it can challenge the decline. And this is the path that the US has taken amongst its vassal and client states to, as the political establishment calls it, retaking leadership in the global order. Now, this involves geopolitics. Geopolitics has a number of different dimensions. It has one which is concerning the academic pursuit of geopolitics. That is to try and understand and make more predictable the relationship between geography and politics in terms of competition, cooperation, and conflict over space, resources, and so forth. The other one is geopolitics from the perspective of practitioners and policymakers. And this is seen as a means of managing and regulating the relations of power and influence between different actors in the international system. There is also a third aspect, and this is looking at the informational aspects of geopolitics, which is quite often overlooked. So looking at the informational aspects, how geopolitics are interpreted and how they are represented by different actors in the international system is an attempt, and it is a means to try and justify and legitimize actions that have been taken or are about to be taken and which are potentially contentious in nature, such as that of regime change or other risky forms of foreign and security policy. So that is information and knowledge used as a means to justify and legitimize. And this fits in with the 5 dimensions of strategy. There are 4 dimensions that are tangible. That is the use of land, and this is continental powers, or water, that is maritime powers, air power, space, and the fifth dimension, which is an intangible, and that is the role of information and knowledge to shape the perception and the interactions with the other four tangible spaces and dimensions of strategy. Looking at how this fits in, the US-led global north is facing increasing problems. Its constraints and restraints on its capability and capacity for hard power coercion is less because it is in decline. And furthermore, the mental and intellectual capability and capacity of the West is decreasing. It makes it more unpredictable, and it makes it less, should we say, appropriate in the actions which they do or attempt to do. And looking at what is happening now, the global south, and this is especially for BRICS, there is an attempt to weaken and contain the main pillars of the global south, all of whom are members of BRICS. That is Russia in Europe, Iran in West Asia, and China in the Indo-Pacific. And so if we look at how the global north uses information and knowledge, the main aim and goal is to try and cause an obstructive foreign policy pursuit. That is to try and ensure that those key actors from the global south are unable or incapable of achieving their foreign policy goals, which are aimed at increasing the power and influence of those countries. And this is because the US main strategic goal is to attempt some kind of management and retention of a form of hegemony. It's no longer at an absolute hegemonic status, and one can even argue that even the relative hegemonic status is under severe strain, especially in some global regions. Now, looking at this, the US traditionally isolates its victims for weakening and containing. For example, if we look after the 2022 special military operation, and even before that, the attempts to use economic warfare to weaken, contain, and coerce Russia into doing things that it would not ordinarily do. And that it also attempts the same thing with the Trump administration, both the first iteration and now the second one, this resort to this informational dimension of economic warfare, where the threat of economic warfare is meant to cow those potential victims. Of course, it cows those from the global north who are essentially displaying this inner slave mentality to Washington, D.C., and will do whatever they want, whatever Washington wants, even if it is against the will, wishes, and interests of their own country, such as supporting Ukraine for however long it takes. It is also attempting the same thing with Iran over the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, and China with the South China Sea, using different means of information and communication to pressure, coerce, and bully. However, one of the main defenses against this is for those countries of BRICS and the global south in general not to work in isolation, but rather to join together, because when countries act, even if they have their own interests, and even if the interests don't entirely coincide, countries from BRICS will have far more resilience to this pressure and coercion than without it. For example, India and China. They have their differences, they have their conflict in the past, but they also have a common interest not to be used against one another by the United States for the United States' interest of weakening India and China as geopolitical and geo-economic powers in the Indo-Pacific, which is what they're trying to do. And one can say what is happening in Venezuela at the moment is another case where BRICS can join together, present a united front, understand that there are differences, but to use this to their advantage, that there are common interests to work on. And this needs to be understood. Of course, due acknowledgement needs to be given to the differences, though these can be worked around. This is not a deal killer, so to speak. But what is a killer is to not join together, and that is to create a common understanding, and therefore not only have a defensive role against this coercive diplomacy and this obstructive foreign policy, but to also communicate BRICS's understanding of what is a just and adequate world. That is to promote and to market what they understand is a viable, just alternative to slavery and usury of being an object of the United States and international relations, rather than being a subject of international relations with BRICS, which is pursuing a much more pragmatic win-win, reciprocal and relational scenario against this zero-sum game which involves ideological messianism and this working against one's own interest. Thank you for your time and attention.
Hello everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the conference organizers to invite me to have virtual presentation. And second, I'm very sorry that I couldn't be with you all at the conference in person. Thank you to the organizers for receiving my recorded presentation and for sharing it with the attendees. Today, I'm going to talk about a subject that lies at the intersection of geopolitics, communication, and the evolving architecture of global governance. And the title of my presentation is Iran and BRICS in Strategic Communication for Multipolar Global Governance. As you know, in recent years, the global system has entered a moment of profound transition. The unipolar order that followed the Cold War is steadily giving way to a more complex, pluralistic, and multipolar configuration of power. At the heart of this transformation stands the BRICS group: Brazil, Russian Federation, India, South Africa, and now with its expanded format, new members such as Islamic Republic of Iran. The rise of strategic communication has become a defining feature of this new phase in international relations. BRICS' strength is not only in its economic weight or demographic size. Actually, in my view, the more important point for BRICS is in its ability to craft and project a coherent narrative. A narrative that challenges hegemonic discourses and articulates alternative visions for global order. Strategic communication, in this sense, is not merely about messaging or media outreach. It's a discursive practice, a way through which BRICS members define who they are, what they stand for, and how they wish the world to evolve. It serves as a connective tissue linking national policies to collective aspirations, enabling the group of BRICS to project shared values of sovereignty, equality, and mutual respect onto the international stage. The next point is that actually the incorporation of the Islamic Republic of Iran into this framework of BRICS marks a moment of profound significance. You know that Iran's entry introduces a unique and consequential dimension to BRICS communicative power, one shaped by Iran's historical estrangement from Western-dominated structures and its long-standing commitment to a more just and plural world order. For decades, the country of Iran has operated within a geopolitical environment defined by exceptional pressures like economic, financial sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and is actually strategic containment. Yet, despite these constraints, the country of Iran has maintained an independent foreign policy anchored in civilization, pride, and the defense of sovereignty. By joining BRICS, the country of Iran gains a crucial platform to transcend its imposed isolation, to reframe its narrative from one of confrontation to one of constructive engagement and sovereign partnership. At the same time, Iran enriches BRICS' own story, its civilizational depths, its very vast energy reserves, natural gas, crude oil, and actually coal, and its geostrategic location connecting Asia, Middle East, and the Eurasia, that all amplify BRICS' credibility as a serious architect of an alternative global order. Well, in continue, let me to outline three principal vectors through which Iran contributes to BRICS' strategic communication project. The first vector is the narrative dimension. Iran, as you know, reinforces BRICS discourses on sovereignty, non-intervention, and resistance to coercive economic measures. It brings moral authority to the idea that international relations must be based on respect and dialogue. I repeat it, must be based on respect and dialogue, not domination. This narrative resonates powerfully across the global south, where many nations share similar experiences of marginalization and asymmetric power. The second vector is the geopolitical dimensions. Iran's participation amplifies the voice of the global south in international forums. Its geographic and political positioning, bridging the Persian Gulf, Central Asia, and Indian Ocean, allows BRICS to deepen its strategic outreach across multiple regions. This strengthens the group's capacity to advocate for balanced regional security architectures and diversified energy and actually foreign trade routes. And the last vector is an institutional dimension. Iran's integration helps to consolidate BRICS communicative mechanisms, from public diplomacy to media networks and academic exchanges. Tehran's long-standing experience in building alternative platforms of dialogue, such as the non-aligned movement, can be instrumental in institutionalizing BRICS strategic communication as a sustained and coordinated effort rather than a collection of isolated initiatives. Of course, this process is not without challenges or problems. You know that there are many diversified and important policy problems and challenges in this way. Intra-BRICS divergences, differing economic models, and Iran's contested image in some international circles may create friction among the BRICS members. Yet these challenges also highlight the value of dialogue and strategic communication itself as a tool for bridging perception, managing diversity, and cultivating consensus. The real power of BRICS lies precisely in its diversity. So, diversity is the most important signs of powers for BRICS because the diversity can help the BRICS members to transfer difference into complementarity and national interest into shared global purposes. Well, to conclude my presentation, I can express that Iran's integration into BRICS is more than a geopolitical development. It's a communicative milestone. It provides Tehran with strategic resilience and a renewed voice onto the global stage, while actually in doing BRICS with greater ideological coherence, cultivation of depth, and geopolitical weight. Together, we can conclude that they are helping to shape the contours of genuinely multipolar world, one defined not by domination, but by dialogues, not by exclusion, but by inclusion, and not by hierarchy, but by mutual respect. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish good luck for all the scholars, young researchers, and my colleagues at this prestigious conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Razornijad finished his talk. And now I'd like to give a floor to the next speaker, Professor Rajan Kumar, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. His topic is BRICS and the emerging global order, an Indian perspective. Professor Kumar currently teaches courses on research methods and foreign policy, PhD, MA students in the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. He has written several books and is well-known figure on India's foreign policy and international politics. He writes regularly for reading newspapers and appears on various TV channels and as an expert. He is associated with several civil society organizations working on capacity building and sustainable development. So, Professor Kumar, you're welcome. You're here. Yeah, I see you here.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm extremely grateful to all the organizers, especially the Department of Eastern Philosophy, Russian Institute of Philosophy, chair here, Victoria Lushanka, and of course, Oleg Kocherov, with whom I have been communicating about this conference. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. What I'll try to do that I would like to give the Indian perspective on strategic communication, but in a global context. First thing I would like to emphasize that why BRICS matters not only to the global south, but also to the international order. The first and the most important issue, as has been spoken by most of the speakers here, that it is trying to create a new narrative in terms of political narrative, economic narrative, and ideational narrative. And that is something that challenges the Western hegemony in terms of ideas, Western hegemony in terms of institution, and also Western dominance in terms of economic order. So BRICS has successful. I can tell you that although we have been talking that BRICS needs to develop strategic communication, and I agree with that. But even whatever it has done till now, BRICS has created a lot of now a lot of voices coming from the West that why they need to check the rise of BRICS. For instance, recently you might have heard that President Trump he said that he'll impose a tariff on the BRICS countries because he thinks somehow that BRICS countries in the future might come up with the currency. He's also not happy that the way international trade among the BRICS country is taking place, that might weaken the dollar. He is also not happy that most of the BRICS countries, they refuse to criticize Russia on the issue of Russia-Ukraine war. He's also not happy that the BRICS countries, and if I tell you India, China, etc., BRICS countries refuse to join the sanctions imposed by the West over Russia. So, these are the reasons why I think that BRICS has managed to create a very powerful narrative in the international system. And BRICS today has arrived at a place which the West cannot ignore. If you see the literature, if you see the way BRICS was treated just a few years back, in India also to some extent, but globally. If you see The Economist, the New York Times, Washington Post, and most of the Western newspapers, Guardian included, they would be very dismissive about BRICS. They will not take BRICS very seriously. They'll think that BRICS is a very diverse organization where you have where countries which are democracies, where you have countries which are authoritarian. Ideologically, you have a communist country, and then presidential system of Russia, and the liberal democracies of Brazil, India, and South Africa. And they don't share history, they don't share political system, they don't share ideology. As a consequence, most of the articles and most of the the mindset in the West was that BRICS cannot emerge as a powerful, cohesive organization. But it has reached a point where Trump has begun to threaten this organization and also the countries by saying that he'll put tariff on the BRICS countries. So in my view, BRICS has in my view, that establishes the credibility of BRICS, and that's exactly the reason why I think BRICS has become important. Why? Because Trump is also now taking this organization very, very seriously. And now I'll give you some of the objective features, objective reasons why BRICS has to be taken seriously by the people who were very dismissive earlier. Let me tell you that BRICS is the most formidable non-Western organization in the post-Cold War period. If you see the organizations that have evolved in the post-Cold War period, there are a number of organizations which came up. But among them, this is the most important and credible organization of the non-Western world. In terms of narrative, what it does, let me tell you, it tries to create a narrative that it contests the Western multilateralism. The West has been dominating the multilateral institutions. I don't have to say, all of you know about the way they dominated in the United Nations, IMF, World Bank, WTO, all the other organizations included. But now there's a fear among the Western scholars and the Western leaders that a new kind of multilateralism is being created. Most of the general argument here is that the Western institutions are declining. But what is happening in the non-Western field is that these organizations, be it BRICS or Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they are emerging powerful. So the general theory that they were proposing, that European Union is declining, the United Nations is declining, IMF, World Bank, WTO, etc., they are not in good shape. WHO, because of the whatever happened, is not in good shape. So the Western institutions are declining. But the same kind of theoretical framework cannot be applied if you have to understand BRICS or Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Just the objective features, all of you know, but I'll point it out just for the benefit of an audience here. There are 11 members, and expansion has created a new buzz in the Western country. They are worried that why so many countries are willing to join BRICS, and there are so many applicants which want to join BRICS now. There are roughly more than 30 countries. It is about 48% of global population. 48%, so roughly 50%, you can say, the global population of 3.85 billion people. It controls 27% of the global GDP. It controls roughly 25% of the global trade. And I'm saying all of this in the nominal GDP terms. BRICS is now almost comparable to G7, and BRICS is almost like 5 times bigger than G7 in terms of population, etc. So what has created the credibility for BRICS is, of course, because so many countries are joining, but it has funds. The countries are emerging. And also it has created some of the very powerful institutions. And the geographical outreach of BRICS has grown. Now it has members from Africa, what do you call Middle East, of course, South Asia, East Asia, etc., and Russia. So the geographical outreach is and of course Latin America. Geographical outreach has expanded, and that has created a kind of fear in the Western mindset. So what I'm trying to say is that we have already succeeded in a very powerful way in creating an alternative narrative. And I have been writing on the BRICS very extensively, I can tell you. I have written a book also published from Routledge London recently. It was edited. And beyond that, I have written a number of articles which you can find on the internet. But if I have to give you a comparison, just a basic comparison, that how BRICS has arrived at an international stage, and a comparison becomes inevitable, that I need to give a few parameters of comparison vis-a-vis G7 countries. G7 country, as you know, G7 is the representative organization of the West. So G7 economy in terms of nominal GDP in 2024 was 48 trillion, and BRICS economy is more than 31 trillion economy today. But if I tell you in terms of purchasing power parity, that gives you an interesting figure. G7 economy is only 51 trillion economy in terms of purchasing power parity, while BRICS has an economy of a combined economy, I'm saying, of 55 trillion economy. So in terms of purchasing power parity, BRICS has already overtaken the G7 economy. If I tell you the trade, so the G7 trade was only 28% of the global trade, and BRICS trade was 25% of the global trade. So there's hardly any difference. And in the next 2-3 years, we'll see that when it comes to most of the economic indicators, BRICS will have overtaken most of the G7 indicators, and it has created a very successful institution. As I said, in terms of NDB, New Development Bank, BRICS Bank, what do you call it, and Contingency Reserve Agency, and Health Research Organization, etc. De-dollarization is one thing that has threatened Trump administration, and Trump is not happy the way these countries, although let me tell you that BRICS is not going to create a new currency, and all of us know, but somehow Trump doesn't understand it. So de-dollarization, he thinks that because these countries, India, Russia, or Russia, China, etc., Russia, Brazil, they've started trading in national currency. So that has created a fear among the Western scholars, Western economists, who think that BRICS can probably, weaken the dollar in the coming years. And also, if you now with the new members, many countries, they are the oil producing country. The major oil producing countries are from the BRICS members. And it also started giving credit to the emerging economies. For instance, in 2023, a 33 billion loan was given to the emerging countries by BRICS. So all of that has created a noise, and all of that created a narrative, and which is not being liked by the West, and which is not a bad thing for us, for the countries of the BRICS and people who think that the world has to be more representative, world has to be more democratic, the international norms must be respected. And BRICS is not an alternative organization, let me tell you. Since there's not much of time, so I'll not go into the theory that I'm trying to develop vis-a-vis the Western theories. But what I can tell you that, BRICS is an example of parallel institutionalization, where we are trying to create an institution which is countering the Western institution. We are not trying to say that we do not believe in international law, which has been existing since the end of the World War II. We are only complementing the law, because we are very serious about the issues which are not being addressed by the international institutions. So we are complementary rather than contradictory to the international institution. And we do, if you see the BRICS statement, in all the BRICS summits, we have said, or the BRICS countries have said, BRICS communication, what you call it, it has been said that we respect international law, we respect international United Nations, we want more representation, more democratization with the growing economy, etc. Otherwise, for instance, just tell me that how can United Nations Security Council be effective and not have the largest member, the biggest the country in terms of population? So that these are the ironies, these are the pitfalls of the existing institution, and unless until these institutions are reformed, the BRICS, these Western institutions will decline unless until they try to reform. But unfortunately, the process of reform is very slow. Coming to, because the time is very less, coming to the this why BRICS matters for India, I'll just give you a few pointers so that you have an idea that how India takes BRICS. So India played a very active role from the very beginning, even before BRICS came into being. 2006 and 9, that was the period when it came into existence. Even before that, Russia, India, China cooperation in 1998 was started by Primakov. And if you see, there is a historical trajectory, the RIC gradually expanding into BRIC and then becoming BRICS with the inclusion of South Africa. And now you have 11 members in the BRICS. So RIC can be taken as an ancestor, and this narrative also we need to change. The West has been saying that Goldman Sachs, etc., they are the ones which created BRICS. But if you need to counter the narrative, you also need to say that RIC is the beginning of BRICS actually, and there is a logic, and not only logic, there is a reason why the RIC should be considered the beginning of BRICS and not Goldman Sachs' idea of the BRIC, what you call it in his research report. So why it matters for India? So BRICS offers a kind of strategic autonomy for India. India, as you know, even during the Cold War period and afterwards, India respects the idea of a strategic autonomy. Because we have a colonial history, we do not want to be come under the influence of any foreign power. Let me tell you, be it from any side, be it the West or the non-Western country. It's very clear to most of the Indians that we will pursue a very independent policy, and our policy will not be subordinated by the national interest of any other country, be it the West or the rest. We don't care, but strategic autonomy, and BRICS plays a role in establishing India's concept of strategic autonomy. The External Affairs Minister of India, Foreign Affairs Minister, what do you call it? S. Jaishankar, he put it very beautifully in his book, which is known as the India Way, where and the India Way was the book which came in 2020, and he says that this is the time to engage America, manage China, cultivate Europe, reassure Russia, and bring Japan into play. So India is pursuing a policy, what it calls a policy of multi-alignment. We have a regional interest, we have a global interest. So we'll continue to pursue a policy of strategic autonomy vis-a-vis the major powers. So and will not be subordinated by the interest of other country, that's for sure. And that's the general mindset in India, and you can trust me on that. There's a bipartisan consensus because India has been ruled largely by the two parties. Earlier it was the Congress party and the coalition, and now is the BJP and the coalition. So there is a bipartisan consensus on the issue of BRICS. So earlier government also supported very strongly the idea of BRICS, and the present government is also very active so far as BRICS is concerned. And Trump's tariff, which has been put on India, 50% tariff, etc. I don't think that has threatened the Indian government, and India is very firm that it will not come under pressure, be it on the issue of importing energy from Russia or other country, or joining the regime of sanction, or importing defense products from Russia and other country. India is very clear that India will not be dictated by the United States, and so whenever the negotiation takes place, negotiation has to be has to respect the India's national interest and India's concerns. Otherwise, I think this. And there is a lot of criticism in India because what Trump put, the Trump's tariff, and some of the caustic words that he used against India in the last few months. Second is for India, BRICS is also a geopolitical necessity because India thinks that it wants to play a very active role in the global south, and as I said, there is no better organization than BRICS in the global south. So BRICS will remain BRICS will remain pivotal to India's interest, and India, let me tell you, is very active in the countries of global south, be it Africa, Latin America, Asian countries. It has bilateral ties, but also it always wants to be part of multilateral negotiations with the countries of the global south. African Union was included when India hosted this G20 meeting. So India supports the idea because of the history, culture, and the historical tradition. We consider ourselves very important, active player on the issue of global south. Without Russia, Indian strategy in Eurasia will not succeed. So there are also geopolitical reasons why India will remain active in BRICS, irrespective of the government, and India views BRICS very favorably. It is a platform for regular communication with China, which may be difficult given the hostility sometimes we have. So BRICS also played a kind of mitigating role on the issue of India-China conflict, and from that perspective also, India takes BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization, both the organizations, pretty seriously. It also guards India from the Western pressure because today Trump is trying to put pressure on India, but India knows that it has an alternative platform. So because of these reasons, India will continue to play a very active role in BRICS. India also supports the idea of BRICS because BRICS supports the idea of reformed multilateralism. And India, as you know, India has been left out from the most of the Western institutions, be it Security Council, and in the voting of IMF, the voting percentage is very low, and also in other organizations, nuclear regime, etc. And that is not acceptable. There is a sense in India that we have been left out, and sometimes the global powers, they have not been very supportive to India's concerns and cause. So because of that, India thinks that BRICS can play a positive role when it comes to reformed multilateralism. We call it reformed multilateralism, and reforming the multilateralism, that's what you understand it there. So in also the biases which are there in be it WTO, IMF, etc. So India is concerned about those biases because India thinks these biases cater to the Western supports the Western dominance, and India is not happily willing to accept that dominance of the West. So BRICS is also non-interventionist because we are not BRICS is not a military organization like NATO. BRICS does not support the idea of regime change. So India likes that because because of colonial history, and also we have several conflicting issues in different parts of India. So India would not like intervention from any country, be it United States, Russia, or China, or European Union. So India, in its domestic affairs, is very clear that will not entertain this interference. Russia somehow, I understand, because I've been teaching Russian foreign policy also. So Russia somehow understands India's sensitivity, but Trump unfortunately doesn't understand, and as a consequence, there is a lot of anti-Trump sentiment which is emerging in India, and somehow US is not understanding at this point of time. So BRICS, BRICS is and BRICS supports India supports the idea of BRICS non-interventionist. Again, terrorism is an important issue from Indian perspective. We have been the victim of terrorism from the neighboring country, and India would like to have a kind of consensus on the issue of BRICS, which is not easy. But again, because Russia is also a victim, and large number of countries are victims. But when it comes to, finally, just 1 minute, I'll take it. When it comes to strategic communication, I think BRICS needs to work much more proactively. Till now, we wait for the summit, and then in the summit, we issue a declaration about, be it Iran, be it Gaza or Palestine, be it the issue of Venezuela. Venezuela is likely to be attacked, but we need to have a very timely strategic communication, and we need to have a very cohesive policy vis-a-vis international conflicts. And let me tell you that the way West managed some of the conflicts in the past, West does not have the capacity to manage. But somehow I feel that the BRICS countries are not following a very proactive policy when it comes to international conflict, and they all have their own ties with the United States, and they want to have a very good relation. As a consequence, they are very silent even on the issue of when it comes to humanitarian crisis. We have seen that in Palestine and Gaza. Although the summit statement was very supportive to Palestinian cause and the human rights violation, etc. But we need to be proactive, especially on the issue of this conflict, Gaza, Palestine, Iran issue, Venezuela now.
So,
And
Professor Kumar, 1 minute, please. One
yeah.
minute more.
So, sir,
Come to the conclusion.
I'm done. So that strategic communication from BRICS should be proactive, and also in the issue of climate change. Now the Western countries, especially the United States, is withdrawing from the climate change, sustainable development aid, etc. So I think BRICS has to come forward much more proactively. BRICS has provided only roughly $33 billion to emerging countries, and that's not enough. I think BRICS has to support the emerging country much more, and we should also BRICS should have a larger forum on the issue of global south, concerns of global south, especially on the issue of food security, etc. So sustainable development again has to be promoted very strongly by the BRICS. So let me stop it here, and thank you to organizers and to everybody for listening me very patiently. Thank you very, very much
For your detailed analysis of the current situation and strategic communication of India under the current conditions. So, может, передать мне слово? Ну ладно. So, it's a pity that the only speaker who is physically here is me. I'm at the very end. I hope that we'll have more physically present speakers, but fail to do this because of different organization matters and so on. At the same time, I hope this discussion, whether it is virtual or physically presence here, the speaker, never mind, the most important what we say, what conclusions we do, what we can do in BRICS as an academic community, whether our advice will be useful. So, okay, now I come to my presentation. So, future technologies. Okay, this. Опять нет. Нет, это не пойдет. Future technologies.
Я это буду показывать.
Давайте своего тогда. Тут не пойдет. Okay. So, nice. Thank you, Alec. Oh, from now, we are going to future. BRICS, like an organization. Yes. And the presentation, is it available for our colleagues? It's also important. Mhm. Ready? Okay. So, my topic is future AI technologies, opportunities, and risks for BRICS strategic communication. This day, we have here researchers in social sciences and technical sciences. Next, we'll continue on the section, the debate on this question. I'm going to finish by this presentation, the plenary session. Why is it so important? And what's the attitude in BRICS towards AI? As you see, according to different reports, in BRICS countries, the attitude towards AI is very optimistic to be compared with the Western countries. So you see here that, well, in Finland, for example, only 16% of population trust AI. In BRICS countries, this enthusiasm and acceptance of AI is on high level. First of all, in India and China. So this is a tendency among the BRICS countries, the low attitude level towards AI in Russia, in some other countries, but generally the BRICS countries are much more optimistic on AI use. It doesn't mean that it is only very good. No, some things may show that some problems we have here. For example, the Work Trend Index 2023 reveals that 74% of Indian employees fear that AI will replace their jobs. Meanwhile, 83% of employees are willing to delegate a major portion of their workload to AI in a process to mitigate any threat of job loss that puts forward by the technologies. From one side, you have a great fear towards AI. From another side, you want to give your job to AI. It's a very dangerous paradox under such move, and it's not typical only to India. I gave a figure about the most optimistic country on AI, but this optimism is very dangerous. We have to be responsible for AI. We should trust not AI, but ourselves. It depends on the society. And when we only consumers of AI, you have to expect many dangers from AI. Whether the AI brings real dangers, yes, it may with some future. You see this plant in Russia, 50 years ago, the biggest plant producing cars. On the right, you see this car in Tolyatti producing plants after reconstruction. You see a lot of people. It's the Chinese plant, built only 1 year and a half. Where people are? No people. AI and lighthouses is a category about the high developed plants all over the world. Each year, 20, 30 new plants are introduced into the category lighthouses. And China, more than 60% of lighthouses is responsible for that. From one side, it is good. From another side, it's an employment for some categories. And for BRICS countries, it's necessary not to stop the introduction of AI, but quickly organize the introduction of educational programs for people who are losing jobs because of the introduction of new technologies. And it's necessary to use the instrument strategic communication for looking forward about the result of introduction of new technologies. It's our task. We can do that, no doubt. BRICS leaders about their risks. given a lot of positive things, AI can bring risks. And the leaders of BRICS, they say about this in an open way. It's very open that the leaders' strategic communication on AI problem for the last years is very active. Whether we are speaking about the leaders of China, India, Russia, but the same we can say about the leaders of United Arab Emirates. Other countries, they pay more and more attention to the opportunities and risks of AI. These risks of AI and of new technologies as a whole, we can make an analogy. A plane, a stable situation, and the passengers in a plane in the airport, they feel safe when they see a flock of birds. When they're in a stable situation. But when the plane go in air, the flock of birds is very dangerous. It's unstable situation. It's a plane. But now let's think about a plane as a whole society, human society nowadays. We are in a very dangerous, objective, unstable equilibrium. A new stage of the human mankind development. It's from Florida, the accident. The plane is in dangerous situation. We are in dangerous situation. The captains, the presidents, the prime ministers all over the world, they discuss problems and they can't solve them just in time. This is very close. We are very close to doomsday in different ways, ecological, atomic weapons, many other threats. So we have to solve them. And under unstable equilibriums, new technologies, and first of all, AI, makes a very important tool to stabilize situation through development and rapid development, or to destabilize the situation in the interest of the egoistic groups of interests. Two alternatives and two different confronting strategic communication strategies in all countries, inside and all Earth, outside BRICS and inside BRICS. We are more dynamic, but we have a lot of problems. That's why we need to analyze this situation. Unstable equilibriums, I delivered a lot of time for the analysis of unstable equilibriums in society. You can see the rise in populism and politics, the rising clashes between different ruling elites, the rising tensions between the leading powers, the crisis in social sciences, which is very important. And one of the main attributes of these crimes, for many years, the lack of interest of specialists in social sciences to new technologies. They formally said about AI for many years, but they missed the quick development in AI industry for the last period of time. This is a contradiction. It's not enough to imitate the research process in social sciences. You have to analyze the facts, the last tendencies, and to organize a combined teams of researchers in social and technical sciences. It's a task for BRICS to accumulate this experience as quickly as possible on national level and form international multidisciplinary teams on AI, not specialists only in technical sciences, but from different areas of social sciences, to invite them for that, but to transform the education where the scientists and social sciences can adapt these new technologies and can predict some things using their methodology. What about the future? Narrow AI, one model, one task machine. It works. It goes on. It gives good results, especially research AI. It's very important because all the predictions of classic specialists in social sciences, they're based on what can a human being can do individually on a team. That's why if you look through all forecasts done 10, 15 years ago in different universities by specialists in social sciences, their predictions, they were not aware of the role of AI nowadays. The absolute majority of very prominent scholars in the West and in BRICS, they did not pay attention to AI. They missed the chance to analyze the role of new technologies ahead. It comes to the current situation when it deforms the social institutions, political institutions, and has a very dubious impact upon the international situation. General purpose AI, now we also see this, multimodal, multitask, more comfortable in machine-human interaction. Next, we are going to go to AG machine, is better than best human being in any capacities, but has no equivalent human consciousness, no will, which manifests itself in self-determination and self-regulation of their own activities in a variety of mental process. Risk hacking the control over AG. Now it's only the steps to go to strong eye, whether it can have a self-consciousness, a self-will. But the predictions are coming from different entrepreneurs because maybe about AG machine and its development in strong eye with consciousness, because or it is a deal of money. Frankly speaking, it's the very core issue of this analysis. I'll next come to this. Why is it so? Whether we have AG, and many researchers say it's possible, within several years, within 10 years, now the researchers say it's possible. My answer on this question, is it possible to go from AG to strong eye? Some say, oh, it's impossible. It's a long process. I can say no. Even now, research AI can help to do Nobel laureate, to get Nobel prizes. Greatest research is done with the help of AI. We can't predict whether it can do more. That's why when we have AG machine, it is very easy to expect that some group of researchers, one government, one international corporation ask, please do this research, and this terra incognita, this strong AI may appear and then develop a new Aladdin transforms in super intelligence. That's why we need to analyze this risk beforehand. And sometimes we only are ready to analyze the current risks, not thinking about the future, strategic risks. Changes in estimation of creation of general artificial intelligence, you see. The reports, for example, in the USA, during Obama neglected this opportunity for tens of years, of 100 years at all. But from Trump, it's on the agenda. Why is it so? So you see, global capital concentration and AI technologies. You see that technological companies began to coin money in the beginning of 20s and accelerate their development, first of all, based on speculations on AI technologies. I have no doubt that we'll have AG and strong AI, but they want to accelerate fears, expectations based that it comes tomorrow. That's why what we have now we have the situation when these several companies, they control nearly everything. See, please, the richest people in the world, Forbes, technological companies and their leaders are on the list. It's evident. The Global Risks Report gives of 24. The analysis, the majority of 1,500 respondents, 54%, anticipate some instability and moderate risk within several years, and the majority, they expect turbulent conditions because of the development of AI in the 10 years horizon. So, and they consider that the main risks comes not from the states like Russia or China, especially with its high levels of development of AI. They claim it authoritarian regimes, etc. No, these business consultants and advisors openly say in this risk report that the main risk is coming from the owners of the leading big tech companies of the USA. Practically 10, 15 people who accumulate resources, technological resources, access to startups, and many other things. They have money, they have brains, they have energy. And look, please, Musk appeared as a record several months ago in Forbes with $300 billion. Now, a record $500 billion in 2 months. And now he asked for compensation for $1 trillion. The voting will be several days later in his company. What about the GDP of the USA? Hundreds of percent rise in property asset of Mr. Musk's. And what about the nation? What about the country? 1%. 1%. Half. So I can say this. So these are the risks. They have political, geopolitical, strategic consequences. If you do not analyze the risks of AI, we lose the game. If you are afraid of AI, we lose the game. That's why it's a very difficult task to pass the abyss between now and future using AI, not neglecting AI. And from this point of view, my point of view that all the institutions, because it's the question very speculative, AI and singularity. If you lose the control over technologies, the singularity comes. Not to lose the control is the only way to transform ourselves using new capacities of AI in a form of hybrid intelligence. But who controls this process? Who uses this transformation in on what interests? If it will be only in the hands of a group of several owners of big tech companies of the USA, the risks of technofascism and many other bad things, never mind all the political views of this or that current owner of the big tech company, may bring us in a new reality very dangerous. In case BRICS can establish a new model of the use of AI based on common interest, on social-oriented economy and social life with the chance to control this process. And in any case, BRICS is a counterbalance to big tech. It's very important. The West have no imbalance inside the West. Everything in the hands of big tech. That's why we can say that on BRICS is the greatest responsibility to use the chance of using AI technologies to the benefit of their nations and to the benefit of all the world. And the companies of China, Russia, India, and other countries, even a small United Arabs, but it's a very good meeting point for specialists in technical research in many startups. We don't want to close ourselves decoupling process, which was invented and developed by the USA. Now, we want to make the united human civilization, which is prosperous from AI in future and open to all the citizens of the current population of the Earth. It doesn't matter. We'll be in great change because of the AI, no doubt. But our task to make this transition safe and in the interests of people. So AI and strategic communication BRICS, finally, for the conclusion, what we can do. we should understand that AI is dangerous, first of all, in a sick social organism, in a sick, fragile state. That's why if you want to avoid the risks, we need in BRICS countries to avoid the situations of a fragile states, sick states, with conflict, which can provoke the liquidation of the state organism. So, secondly, multilateral collaboration with BRIC countries on the issues of AI and strategic communication. We need to develop long-term projects, establish an international research center on BRIC strategic communication, partly focusing on research on AI in strategic communication of BRICS. Third, we need to develop mutual cooperation to counteract big tech attempts to dominate on social, state, and technological levels. Fourth, increasing investments in science and education in order to develop the capabilities of the main productive force of modern society, people, as an important response to the threats of the malicious use of AI. In the broad context of formation or comprehensively develop a responsible citizen of democratic society, rather than a one-dimensional consumer. And the risks of consumering AI are great. Fifth, there are well-known estimates that indicate that society is becoming more complicated and the volume of incoming information is many times greater than the ability of the existing personal, group, and public consciousness to assimilate it and use it adequately in decision-making. One of the new specific mechanisms for solving the problem may be augmented intelligence, hybrid AI, etc. We are on the way to this. Experiments works on this way. Here, the Pilgrim Handbook under my editorship. 11 countries, 24 scholars from the leading countries as well. And I like this picture. We are in BRICS countries and on Earth as a whole, as a corner of a new world, bringing by AI in combination with other technologies. We are at the entrance. We can't stop. It's a puzzle for all us. At the same time, it's a solution. Because with new technologies, we can solve all these problems, ecological, many other problems. Even in Moscow, I can give you only one example. 100,000 of people for the last 1.5 years were partly saved from heart strikes because prediction of AI being used as an experiment in our medical services, an experiment in Moscow. For us, it's an experiment. But if we combine 100,000 people who saved their life because of prediction for 2 years that they're expecting heart strike, maybe such use of AI may bring a very good sample of strategic communication of BRICS countries. It's our message for us, for all the nations of BRICS, and for outer world, how to save ourselves and to overcome our fear of AI. In many people, we see this fear. And to go with AI, we people win from AI. We control it, but we should be different in the process of controlling of more and more complicated forms of AI through combination of AI and human beings. Being human beings, somebody say, it's very dangerous, we'll change ourselves. But could you imagine if we, here sitting with these technologies, on a plane appeared 500 years ago in the capital of Moscow, or Beijing, Addis Ababa, any country will be proclaimed gods or devil, any other types, and will be destroyed, or people come to us like to gods and asking for something. It is 500 years. Between us is these new people, not 500 years. Maybe 20, maybe 50, maybe 100, not 3 like Musk asks and many others who want to coin money on speculation on AI. But it will be, no doubt, and we should prepare for this. Thank you very much for your attention. So this applause is for all the 5 speakers because I'm the only one who is present here. So now we have a session, question and answers. Yes, you are welcome to address me and Professor Kumar, first of all. He is here, he is present with us. So 2 of us are ready to answer questions, but you can address, of course, in a written way through internet to all 3 speakers who are not present with us here. It's your choice. So, yeah. Dr. Adetta, you're welcome.
I would like to thank you very much indeed, particularly the organizers, and their extremely illuminating, informative, and at times prophetic presentation that's been made just now, and of course across the entire opening presentations. Professor, I'm absolutely moved by your question from the very beginning, saying, who can save the world, in your opening speech. And then in your final presentation, you showed us a scenario. If we are not responsible for our education, if we are not taking care of the ethical aspect of AI, then we are destined to doomsday. So get prepared. It's not 500 years away, or we're so close to each other. Professor, most of the time, professors, researchers make recommendations, but do you think that our recommendations can make any difference at higher level, at policy level? That is one question. My second question goes to all of us. Imagine we come home, husbands having 2 husbands at home because of AI, and wives coming home, 2, 3 husbands there standing. So what do you think our social relationship is going to be if AI comes back to life? And you say that if it comes to self-consciousness, then isn't it going to really create chaos, entire chaos in human communication, not only strategic communication for BRICS, but strategic communication for individuals as well? That's what I really feel. So could you possibly comment on that? And thank you once again very much indeed.
So your first question, what we, academic community, can do, our voice here is one thing. Practical politics is another thing. We live not in ideal systems. All states are not governed by archangels. Yes, from one side. But remember, please, this plane, the passengers who are in fear, and the situation of pilots who are under the attack of these objective factors, our prime ministers, presidents, etc. Without science, is it possible to find an answer on strategic issues? It's impossible. That's why BRICS is going to develop research groups on AI. New laboratories are being built between different states, between India, Russia, India and China, China and India. I take part in a grand project of China as well, not only the lead of this project. And this summer I was in China and we delivered a research international seminar on the threat of AI and potential answers. So the collaboration is in progress. And our papers, research is more and more in the focus of the attention of the leaders of BRICS. It is a very positive thing that starting especially from Johannesburg and next in Kazan, this year in Rio de Janeiro, the first document openly discussing the AI in the strategy of the development of BRICS is a positive thing. So I believe will be listened to. But it depends on our project, our product, of our work to predict really before it happens. Alternatively, I remember the words of Mr. Putin addressed to him about the potential risks of AI. In one of his answers, Mr. Putin, I do not, in quotations, cite his words, but generally say, it is maybe like with atomic bomb, Hiroshima. It happened, and everybody analyzed the risk of atomic energy. And maybe with AI, we have finally such accident. Everybody, they pay attention, give money, and began to collaborate more energetically. So our task not to follow this very bad scenario. And our president said this, I suppose, only paying attention to another alternative to do before the answers. It depends on us. Not politicians are responsible to find answers. They have a lot of problems. And we are specialists in strategic communication in combination with multidisciplinary teams can prepare in a form of strategic consultancy some answers. It's my answer. We can do this. That's why we are here. That's why you appear virtually and praise physically to discuss these questions. We were astonished to find on our requests to 400 experts, nearly 70 positive, and finally we got the 50 who are ready to deliver their papers here on this very topic, actual topic. So, and second question, self-consciousness is not so disturbing if we analyze this from another point of view. Hybrid intelligence. The people in the majority do not think about this as a possibility of combination of the rising artificial intelligence of human beings. You say, why? But in India, if you remember, wolves took children at the age of 1 year, of 2 years. Afterwards, if they come to their families, they couldn't become human beings. They stay to be wolves. That's why all human beings now, basic artificial intelligence, I call it, because we are the production of the society, of our interaction. We human beings, artificial intelligence, basic artificial intelligence. In some of my works, I introduce this term. So don't afraid this term, artificial intelligence. Nobody can have artificial, our natural intelligence do not exist. We are the production of the society, first of all, the social conditions, starting from the first breath of our mother giving us a life, from her words, first words, surrounding mother at this period of time pregnant. We are the product of the civilization. And now we want to produce the second type of artificial intelligence. And this product in future, it will be we. Artificial intelligence can have all the history, all the culture of the human mankind. It's not an alien coming from another star. It's we. That's why in which way we can combine human beings, basic artificial intelligence, on a biological lab with this second time producing by us artificial intelligence. It is the same, like you want to find a conflict between the son or daughter going from a village without cars, very distant village in India, in Russia in 30s, to the city, getting education, PhD, and coming back to a illiterate father and saying, oh, illiterate, and I kill you. The same you can read in many fiction and academic articles. It's the greatest risk that your son and daughter will kill you. If you speak about real consciousness, it's something abnormal produced by the Western mentality, saying about this. And this mentality is from these big tech companies which produce this AI only for profit. That's why they're afraid of strong AI, because it stops everything in their life. At the same time, they want to develop AI because it brings profits. It's their conflict, not us. For us, in the normal society, it will not be a conflict between basic artificial intelligence and secondary artificial intelligence, some kind of combination and collaboration between them, because through artificial intelligence, we'll develop ourselves, our capacities, our long-time period. We do not lose our feelings, we widen our feelings. We do not lose our capacity to move on us. With planes, we'll move on us. With the products of artificial intelligence, we'll move to stars. Do we want to stop ourselves in our move to stars? I'm not. What about the people? Our task of researchers to explain that the risks are great, but the advantages are much greater. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Many questions. So, KJ, yes, our visitor
Hello.
from.
Добрый день.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. I'm from Japan, and Japan is not a BRICS member, but I'm very much happy to participate in this conference through online. I have a question for Professor Pashentsev about artificial intelligence. And we share great concerns against AI and big tech companies' approach. And there are some efforts in the OECD, Organization of Economic Development and Cooperation in Paris, and also in the Council of Europe. And in the Council of Europe, there is a framework convention on artificial intelligence and human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. And EU and some 15 countries signed this agreement. And I'm not trying to impose you these efforts, but my idea is that we need good dialogue and conversation and exchanges of views among ourselves. And because AI is everyone's problem, it's a great challenge for the human being. So I wish you help us to promote more communications among us, even with non-BRICS members. And in this respect, I expect BRICS countries' greater contribution for the human beings as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. So, Marius Vakarela. Marius, are you here?
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Happy to see you here in this kind of electronic form. You know very well I want to see you in Moscow, but today is not very possible. Greeting from Bucharest, from 22 degrees for everyone. My question is related to what you said in the beginning about universities. Do you think in the next years it will be a gap between stronger universities and smaller universities because of this artificial intelligence advent? Because the small universities probably they will not have enough budget, not a big budget to implement all these kind of artificial intelligence solutions. So it will be a gap between big universities who will be even stronger and the smaller one who become even smaller and maybe will disappear.
Yeah, I do understand the question. Yes, for now, this gap maybe even is increasing because the reaction of the states to prepare new stuff, to react in time, to invest money, is limited, especially in the South countries of Big South. The countries are in deep debt, in misery, and they try to find the solutions for the everyday questions to survive. Millions of people die there. Don't forget, we addressed to BRICS countries, and many of them have difficulties. Many of them have much better conditions, but our neighbors in the Big South, especially in Africa, are in very difficult conditions. That's why to invest for them for artificial intelligence programs on a broad scale practically is impossible without the help of the developed countries. That's why I see many students coming from these countries on different professions for education. For example, in Russia, it's 400,000, and we hope 500,000 will be foreign students by 2030. It's the program to have. It's good. But among them, small groups of students coming for artificial intelligence for now. But later, it will be a stream much greater. So the solutions come a bit later than we want to see. But the necessity to prepare this is great. What about the developed countries? The problem is to prepare not pure technicians. The task is being solved. Is to prepare the specialists in social sciences, in history and political sciences. But what about the specialists in history in the USA, for example? They practically have no budget for this. The cuttings in budgets in European countries, especially in the USA, are great. And in technical sphere, that's why the problem is we have more and more complicated technically society, but with less and less socially prepared in social sciences people, with accumulation of knowledge in technical sciences. This is a problem. This is a gap which is dangerous, first of all, for the developed countries of the West. But for BRICS countries, it's also a task. We need to invest more, it's my point of view, here in artificial intelligence. The solutions are given in Russia. For example, I give example several years ago, 10 years ago, no programs on artificial intelligence, national programs. Now with strategy on artificial intelligence, with many universities introducing the courses on artificial intelligence. So an example here is a Professor Konstantin Pansarev. He is the head of the first program. I'm also the professor at this department, St. Petersburg, Artificial Intelligence and National Security. 50% of time ideally for humanitarians and 50% for technical sciences. So, and some humanitarians, they master technical sciences, the basic things. So, like Professor Pansarev, it's normal, I suppose. We are in the beginning. We have new generation of students. I can address to students who are prepared by technical sciences and humanitarian sciences in another manner than for humanitarians or technical specialists. We need this new type, not students, but 5 years later, specialists in public administration, in foreign affairs ministries, etc., much more than now. It's our task in BRICS to be advanced in this. A huge task, but we can solve it. Yes, and the last, no, we have how much time? I don't want for discussion. Maybe, yes, we have questions. But that's it.
Professor Pavshchev, we have a comment
The last.
in our chat.
The last one, because we are shortened of time. Not for now. A lot of questions, I do understand. What comment? I'll just make a comment on the speaker's patient. Yes, techno-feudalism, techno-fascism, yes, we can find ourselves maybe in the society with very few people with good artificial intelligence, with robotic systems, robotics, smart robots, they can put in physical world major part of the population if we do not develop socially oriented systems. I doubt a little about the future of the United States and the Western countries under the current Western elites because they have everything to understand 20, 30 years before. They have education, they have different resources, but only now they begin to react. What about big tech? The European Union asked to pay big tech hundreds, billions of dollars, but really they pay 1%, according to the estimates done by researchers of the Western Union. They do not pay, really, because of court procedures. The same I can say about this. We do not expect the solutions coming from the West. We have to make our solutions in the interest, finally, of the West, not against the West. It's not a bloc policy. BRICS is an open association, and we are waiting for this new mentality and readiness for cooperation coming in the West with time, not in a simple way, maybe after tragic episodes. We do not want them. That's why I believe that we can stop new feudalism, techno-feudalism, techno-fascism. It's in our capacities. But if we keep silence about this threat, it comes to us. If we be only consumers of AI, we'll lose the game. All options are on the table. It depends on us, on our choices. Thank you very much, and that's all. We are limited by our conference time schedule. Yes, thank you. And okay, because it's my urging to go on with practical questions, issues for 20-25 minutes because of several projects in my address to the participants of the conference. Сначала презентация. The survey. First of all, I'd like to speak about the results of the survey on strategic communication. The major part of the participants of this conference sent their answers. We are going to produce the result, preliminary result. Отсюда. Оттуда ничего не получается. Это закрываем, так. BRICS and Global Governance Report, да? Okay. So this survey, I want, in brief, to get acquainted. Давайте тогда, потому что не получается. The survey. So some figures about this survey. The special focus was made on the artificial intelligence, but not only. The survey, very interesting answers. So we addressed to 400 plus international experts specialized in global governance, international relations, etc. Go on, please. Then Google Forms, we got them. So you see the sample of this Google Form, the questionnaire. 18 questions, 14 open questions, 6 with grading scale. So here I see the schedule. July-September active phase of the survey. We got the results. Processing survey results. Some samples I gave you just now, preliminary. Pre-final report presentation. Then report is preparing for publication in November, and no doubt we will publish it in January 26. So Go on, please. You see the answers, geography of the answers. The responses provided by 53 experts from 23 countries, but don't think that these experts are all the members, the participants of our conference. So practically, the Russians, participants of this grand project, do not take part in this. More 6 countries take part in this. And more than 15, 20 experts in this list are not from our conference. That's why, and some conference participants do not do this expert review. You have 1 week to send the review to the organizing committee, to Ms. Elizaveta Safonkina, you know her, by correspondence, with your answers. Register and send your reviews if you want to. We'll publish all full answers. It's a book, nowadays 130 pages, will be maybe more. So you see, more answers we get from China, South Africa, 7, and Russia, 6. All the rest countries, 3, 4, 5 answers. You see the geography. So affiliations, 64. Agree with publication anonymously, 36%. Good. So you see questions, some answers. The importance of strategic communication, implementation in domestic and foreign policy. You see the majority say it's important. It's evident. No, say it's not important. Let's go further. So in the next 10 years, the rise of the importance of strategic communication. Everybody believes in strategic communication as this concept. I doubt a little. Maybe some experts who take part in this survey, they are full of enthusiasm. But in science, really, without enthusiasm, you can't get answers. So it's a good answer. Perspective for strategic communication. Go on. So what is the general level of coordination of the state activities and the information, communication coverage within BRICS countries? You see the range of answers is quite different. The majority, they gave answers between 5 and 8, middle. They are not very optimistic, they are not pessimistic. I suppose it means that we have improved this parameter. This is a kind of recommendation for everybody, for all member states. Go on, please. How widely are artificial intelligence technologies used in BRICS countries? Everybody, the majority, say being used rather actively. So, but on the middle level, a bit more, approximately 6.5. I suppose it's a middle level, a bit more. What about the future? The future, you can see, go on. The future, everybody considers that AI will be in the center of strategic communication. So under my presentation, maybe more optimist will be our after section, especially our panel. So we'll do our best that more optimists on the use of AI will be in future, no doubt. So go on. So what about the strategic communication of BRICS? Only strategic communication of individual BRICS countries. It's a very interesting answer. We see some kinds of polarization. The experts don't know. It's very interesting. Here, all the rest part, 22 to 37%. Yes, 37 consider, only 30%. 37% we have strategic communication of BRICS. It's what we think about. Not we only, we understand this is a problem. Who, in our countries, we as experts should inform about such situation. It's not a good situation for BRICS, for us, first of all, and for surrounding world, because they underestimate BRICS. And because of underestimation BRICS, they can make mistakes towards BRICS. And they do mistakes towards BRICS. So go on, please. Do you think it's necessary to create multidisciplinary international research center? Yes. Yes. What's about the finance, about the organization matters? It's not academic community, but we see the majority say yes. So we have to think about this for future, how to explain to those who can say yes and help really for this project to realize this project. And I address to everybody who have ideas in this. I mean, in distance, we understand your help. Go on, please. So, what contribution does BRICS Strategic Communication make to the global governance system? So, you see major significant here, the dominant answers. From this point of view, it's good. But don't forget that only 1/3 see the existence of BRICS Strategic Communication. That's why this positive attitude may be the attitude to some countries' BRICS strategic communication, but not the whole BRICS communication. And much depends, now we see, from the greatest efforts of BRICS leaders. Their communication is on the table. We see all this. But about the projects, BRICS projects, in everyday life here in Moscow, for example, especially in small cities and villages, such kind of explanation. Oh, we see this is a project of BRICS. It brings us, and such answer we haven't among the majority of population and majority of BRICS countries. They can't give this explanation, and it's bad. Go on. So you see our context. Then we'll produce the final answer. And first of all, I want to express the greatest gratitude for Elizaveta Safonkina, who organized all these correspondence for a long period of time, a lot of questions which comes from different directions, and a lot of work is ahead. So we'll finish this project and now open. And now about the collaboration on the book project. Also the question of the interest of the participants of this conference and journals. Окей, также начинаем. Here, it was an agreement reached with two journals, for now only two, maybe more, Index and Scopus. They are ready to publish the articles. Are ready to move it, please, Oleg. So the first journal, Journal of Countries Studies. So Ehsan Rasunejad from Iran, he is a chief editor of this journal. And it was his initiative. He asked the participants of this conference, with the help of the program committee, organizing committee of this conference, to prepare a special issue on strategic communication of BRICS countries, 8-10 articles. So if the participants of the conference send the information on their readiness to take part in this project, maybe we have a special issue published by this journal. So we get this article. First of all, the participants of the conference, I ask you to visit the site of this journal. Go on, please. So look through the articles, the rules for publications. You prepare an article, but I recommend you, first of all, to send a possible title. Then you prepare an article. Then, so it's okay. But first of all, an article, not to send, to prepare. You can do it by yourself and address to the journal. But another option, I'll explain you. Go on, please. Go on, please. Another journal, the same conditions, but no special issue. It's Russian Vostok Orients. Articles for this journal is the difference from the first journal. Not on all strategic communication, but on strategic communication of BRICS countries in strategic communication of BRICS in Asia and Africa, and with special focus on Africa and Asia, especially on strategic communication of these countries. So they are ready to get 4-6 articles for publication, a special patch, a special part of the issue. So go on. So here you'll get this information, this presentation. We'll send it to all the participants, only short, brief acquaintance. So carefully review the requirements. Then you'll send title and better to prepare possible synopsis. 3-4 pages, it's enough. You'll have the sample of the synopsis. Then getting this synopsis and a title, when we have a collection of synopsis, no later than, here are the dates you find. I don't want to pronounce them just now, but all this process is described here. You'll get this information. And in December, we should, for the first journal, Iranian journal, to prepare our answers based on synopsis earlier. If we have the synopsis, I can address to the chief editor, and then the solution, final solution, will be on the side of the editor. It will be normal process of reviewing of these articles. And I can't guarantee anymore, of course, the result. Audience, a bit late is possible, in January, February. So, go on. The book project, the concept of the book. This is very important. Those ones who would like to start in this project, please look through this concept. If you, in principle, disagree with these positions, it will be difficult to accept later your articles. You're absolutely free in what you want to introduce, but there are different concepts of strategic communication from the point of journalism, from the point of military sciences, etc. We are for the role of strategic communication in public administration. It's, first of all, the managerial tool, and this dimension for us important, as well as ethical and social dimension to strategic communication. Don't forget about this. Efficient strategic communication can be found in Nazi Germany. They proclaimed that some nations is necessary to liquidate, and they organized concentration camps, words and deeds. Very efficient synchronization, and they could conquer nearly all Europe. That's why efficient strategic communication is one thing. Ethical dimension for strategic communication is another thing. And those scholars who will be thinking about only efficiency and forget about ethics, we do not welcome such contributions. And of course, the benefit to our nations. How to go forward? It's not an easy task, but I suppose we can prepare good articles. Go on. So you can see here, edited by Evgeny Pashintsov, Anastasia Zabella, Dr. Anastasia Zabella is here. Yes, have a look. So I hope we have 2 more editors from the countries of BRICS. I welcome this, but it depends on the energy, readiness, capacity, experience, language capacities in English, and experience to do this job without any payment for a long period of time. It's a very difficult decision. Yeah, I can say. That's why think a bit, but if somebody wants to take part in this project, I'm ready to accumulate different proposals on that and make a final decision. So at first we expected to have a book with 9, 10 Russian members of our grand project on strategic communication on BRICS and 5, 6 foreign experts. But having such many experts who are not only mentioned readiness to take part in the conference, but in the book, such type of big books are welcomed by some publishing houses. I was in contact with some publishers. I have these contacts. They're very positive on this topic. In spite of all these vulnerabilities, leading Western publishing houses, but BRICS is very difficult to ignore, and I suppose we have a good chance, especially 2 years later, according to the forecast that BRICS is going on. Yes, why not? So in this, the main dates you can read here. By December 1st, send suggestions for a chapter, if you have. If not, I want you, first of all, using the context of the conference members, see that some topics are in this or that regard very close or repeat each other. Maybe you form teams, authors teams, and you prepare this proposal in a form of synopsis, title, synopsis, and not individually, but with a team. Try to establish contacts with the people you find capable to form a good team as you. So this is the best task, because I want to see our book really international, and the publishers, I welcome this approach, not national approach. I don't want to see this book mainly Russian, Chinese, or set. We, BRICS, and we have partners of BRICS, and we have experts from other countries. We are open for all the proposals. So the main parts of the book, please look here. Strategic communication and global governance, strategic communication of BRICS and global governments during the world crisis, strategic communication of BRICS and other partners, country by country, artificial intelligence in BRICS strategic communication, the future of BRICS strategic communication. So try to make your proposals which features this structure of the book. Yes, and the only proposal on artificial intelligence and BRICS strategic communication, we have a big panel. I have some other really good specialists, and maybe we give only several book chapters for this and publish another book on the role of artificial intelligence in strategic communication. Special books of BRICS, of course. So, and malicious use of artificial intelligence and the risks for the psychological security of BRICS, malicious use. We're also ready, nearly ready, with half of this book. So, go on. How to prepare a synopsis of a chapter. You have all this. I do not want to waste time. Go on, please. And have a look what we published with my participation with my colleagues. Strategic Communication Euro-Russia Relations only for the last years. The Belgrade Handbook. Yes, a very good book with Greg Simons, Daria Bazarkina, like editors, and me. Terrorism and Advanced Technologies. Nova Science publishes from New York, also one of the big publishers. Routledge, Regulation Artificial Intelligence in Industry, not my editorship and my colleagues, but we have a good chapter in this. And another book, it's AI in Strategic Communication, published by Willy. We can't see this image, but it is published in September, a very good book. I, in co-authorship with my American colleague, prepared an article on ethics and malicious use, risk of malicious use of artificial intelligence. So much more, only to show that it's an old way for us to prepare such book. We understand all the problems, difficulties, and please understand some unusual risks aggravation of international tensions, for example, etc., which make this project in future may be extremely difficult. But for now, we consider this project very important, and we finish it, no doubt. And with your help, with your active participation, this project will be very important, I suppose, for BRICS strategic communication concept in future. So a long way, a lot of work to do. I believe we can pass this way successfully, and the abyss between now and future will pass successfully. Thank you. Okay. If questions, briefly, I'm ready. 1, 2, no more, because we are very, very pressing of time. No, that's enough. So a short coffee break, and we'll continue for 10 minutes approximately.